Hello, and thank you for joining us with Moss Talks, where we have more conversations and more culture. I'm Joel, co-founder, creative director for Moss Magazine.
And I'm Sydney, co-founder, editorial director for Moss Magazine.
So, Sydney, do you thrift often?
I would say at least once a month, but I just thrift to go and see what I can find. I don't necessarily thrift and be like, okay, I need to walk out with at least 5 things, or if I don't find something here, I'm going to go to this other store. Like, I literally just thrift to see what finds me.
See, just window shop.
Well, I mean, I do buy. If I find something that is of good quality, I will buy it. Like my robe, my pink robe, my Calvin Klein plush pink robe. I got that basically brand new at the Goodwill, and I wear it every single day.
Further proof that you're black. I got you got that basically new.
I say that because now, like, I've worn it so much and I wash it a lot. So, like, it's worn in versus when I first got it, I now realize it was basically brand new.
But I used to thrift more often, but I haven't thrifted in a minute because I've given a lot of clothes back to Goodwill. Once I've thrifted and then realized, oh, I don't wear this anymore. But yeah, I like thrifting. I like thrifting when I can find a good store, because half the time, most of them are good, like when they open up. But then after, like once they open, and then I realize, oh, this is a thrift store, it starts to kind of diminish. Start to kind of see people start to recognize more quickly what times you need to go to get there.
Yeah. Yeah. Or like I go to Goodwill usually. And then this other place that I won't name because I think there's only like one here and it's also really, really great. But like when I thrift, I go to stores like that. I don't go to some vintage shop that's only in downtown and it's super small and everything in there is at least $80 or above.
Them
Um,
vintage stocks be scams.
yeah, like I don't know how much of it is like legit. And like I said, I just feel like their prices are just way insane.
Like
So when I thrift, I am a Goodwill person.
yeah, same. I appreciate that the vintage stores are bringing back stuff, but like charge ups, like I say, upcharging is crazy. Like I get all these shops that have like, oh, this is continuing to be a good product for this how long, but you're it's robbing people of the experience to have these things.
Yeah. Or like when they do like the vintage like markets or bazaar or whatever, and like you have to
Yes.
pay a $30 ticket in order to just get into the building, most time just the area because they don't even really be in buildings. I'm not really with that. I think that's a little fishy.
Yeah. Although I do think you should pay a certain price for those things, I don't think those
Hmm.
prices should be bizarre. Like,
Yeah.
I should not have to pay $40 for a tee that was made in 1985.
Hmm.
Like, I'm just saying, like that's the truth of the matter. I should not be having to pay that much money for a T-shirt.
Yeah.
No matter, like unless the material is like insanely great, which 90% of the time it's not. But I should have to pay that much for a T-shirt.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or even the price of a T-shirt should not go past $20. I don't know how it got past that point, but it should not be past $20.
I agree. I agree. I don't like going to the mall and I see something nice, like a shirt or something, regular t-shirt, and then I look at the price and they're charging $65 for something that isn't even 100% cotton. Like, don't piss me off.
And like I get like if you're sourcing your products and you have to pay a certain price for that, and then you have to like add a fee on top of that. Like obviously, like you got to make your money.
But
But
yeah, but like those things, they have like good materials as well
yeah,
versus,
but
what's in the
if
mall.
you're doing that, businesses start doing this. If you're doing that, put that on the tag. Just because it's your product, let us know you're getting it from someone else, so we understand why the prices are the way they are. Because if we don't understand, we're gonna think you're just money hungry, and we're not gonna come back.
Or not even on the tab, but maybe like when you shop online in the description or whatever. Or
Yeah,
that could
before
be
that.
part of a person's branding and marketing, where they're transparent about where they're getting their materials from or what
And
their clothes make up.
right now, authenticity is great for the palate. Authenticity is great for the palate.
I know palette is my word, but is authenticity yours?
No, today it is, but authenticity is great for the palate. That's all I'm gonna say. But we have a great conversation today with the luxury brand owner. We hope you enjoy our next segment. So good afternoon. Thank you for tuning into Moss Talks. Today we have the pleasure of speaking with Jujuan Lewis about his experience as a luxury brand owner. Thank you, Juan, for joining us today.
I appreciate you guys having me. I'm glad to be here.
So I'm gonna dive right in. The first question is gonna be, what was the idea before starting Arius Juan?
I think the idea was I have an older brother. I think the idea was to just make sure that he stayed creative. He had a lot of things that went on in his life that he wasn't able to, navigate. So he couldn't really be creative. So I wanted to take over that burden. I graduated with a degree in finance, and it was like that winter before COVID. And I said, hey, let's do the business. I'll do that business aspect while you be creative. And it was initially going to be like that. Um, and some life circumstances came up and he wasn't able to do anything. So I said, hey, do I carry on this tradition that I want to start, this legacy, or do I want to just stop it here just because, I don't want to be creative, right? And that was my main thing was, okay, let's start with something creative and see what it builds into. And eventually got the business. So
Okay, so I was like, that's interesting because
okay.
Since you started, did you start Arius Juan in COVID, or was it something that happened after?
It was right before COVID. It was like January 6th. And I think COVID happened in 2020. It happened at the end of February. So it was very interesting to see how everything shut down and it made me be creative too. It's like, hey, I don't want to be creative. I want to be the business person in this aspect. But when it shut down, it's like, hey, you have the time now, so you can be creative. And I just carried it from there. I was like, hey, might as well. You never know what anything will come out of. So
I see. So I viewed the website and
okay.
Great work.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Like really, really child in pieces, like very, like I don't know, like very, very luxury, I would say.
Thank you.
How do you describe the aesthetic of your brand?
I would describe the style as a chic couture, but geared towards a luxury and street market where anybody can wear it to anything. I've always approached my designing in an aspect of I always want to make what I didn't have as a kid. And that's the way I approach it. Of course, I have, Arius Juan in my brand in the fashion house. It's about Americana experiences. And that's the point of view that's the professional point of view that I always tell. But it's really, hey, these are my experiences as a person and what I grew up with and what I wanted to make. So as you see me go through collections, as you see me design more, you get more of a glimpse into my life and what I've done and who I am as a person. And it consistently changes. So it's very interesting how I design. I keep the basics, right? That Americana aspect point of view and cultural heritage. I always try to make sure I have a confident authority in telling a story and having a bold voice in what I do. But, you also see me as a person and who I am through my designs. And I'm just happy it comes across that way.
So I'm curious then, because you touched on having a background in finance. What's your background in fashion? Like, how exactly did you get into luxury designs?
Yeah, I don't have a background in it. I just grew up and I didn't have much. And, sharing clothes with your brother, you have a brother that's 2 years older than you, y'all can fit the same sizes and everything like that. But I always say my experiences, I went to public school and I went to private school, high school. And I always say I've seen a different type of market for both. I got to see the street market and I got to see the luxury market. And that kind of shaped me into how I want to dress. So going to college, I always seen how people dress, and I always wanted to dress nice, and always tend towards the aesthetic of make sure a prep aesthetic, making sure that people notice me and I look nice. Um, so that's kind of where the background came from. And when it came up, my brother was always creative. He always drew and stuff like that. So when it came up and he couldn't do it, he couldn't, you know, eventually be a part of the business. I said, hey, I just want to carry it on my own and see where I can go and see how creative my mind is. Numbers and finance is so specific, it's black and white. But in the creative realm, you have to think about all colors. You have to think about everything in every which way. And I'm glad I got to expand my mind that way.
What role does sustainability play in your branding?
Sustainability is very, very important. Uh, I've always built a model in my brand where I do a lot of make to order custom pieces. And I make sure that I don't over consume fabric. And when you look at your business and you look at the model and what you sell, your sale model, you have to balance a certain aspect of, do I want inventory or do I want to do made to order? Do I want to do half and half? And what I've noticed is made to order also touches on that sustainability piece. We're not wasting fabric in that aspect. I also see a sustainability aspect in making sure we have the right cuts, especially not wasting fabric in the factories. So making sure my tech packs and making sure that 3D models and scans are all already done, and making sure that they have a certain foundation so that we don't waste fabric. And that's huge for me, not to waste fabric, because every piece of fabric is adding to, the problem we already have. So sustainability is a huge aspect for me and making sure that I, do what's right for our planet.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. So I'm kind of curious then, do you have a team working with you, or are you kind of doing most of it, on your own?
So I've been doing most of it on my own. I took a break. So I started back in COVID 2020, released my first collection and second collection 2021. And I took a break because my daughter was born during that time. And I wanted to see how life would navigate me and would it bring me back to fashion. And eventually it did. So I started back in 2023, designing with my collection 3, and now through collection 5, about to release collection 6. So it's always been, I don't know how to say it, but it's always been me. I always like to work by myself and eventually I know I have to expand, but I always like to work by myself because nobody can see the vision like I can. And you have to build that vision out a certain way so that other people can see it. So I do all my photos, my visuals, I do all my videos, I do all that stuff. And I learned it myself because I always said, hey, to be a certain type of creative and be over a certain type of fashion house, you need to learn all the aspects so that you can teach other people. And I think I'm at that point where I feel like I can start teaching other people and eventually build a team. I'm at that point now.
Wow, that's just impressive.
Yeah.
Wow.
I appreciate it.
Also, congratulations on your daughter being born.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So even though I'm 2 years late, but hey,
Oh no, you good. She's a spark. She's a spark. So I always enjoy creating and let her feel fabrics and travel and see what I make and stuff like that. So it's always a good time.
So the next question to you is going to be, what is the process for pieces you create from start to finish?
So what's interesting is a lot of people create the piece first. I start with color. And what I've always learned is, and it's from a young age, I didn't think I was creative, but I always learned that people react to certain colors and they maneuver according to what color you have on, or they may shy away according to what color you have on. And that kind of played a part in starting my process and making sure that my process is color oriented. So my last collection was called Eternal Autumn. I made sure that color was essential. And you have one part of the color that represents the life and death of fall, winter, in the trees. And you have another color that represents the blooming aspects of when we get to spring. Like, we're eventually going to get there. Everything lives and dies when we eventually get there. So I always start with color in the process, and I always make sure that there's a theme to what color I want to be able to, include in my designs. So I start with that, and then I start designing pieces to get inspiration about pieces that I want. Some big inspirations to me: Kirby Jean Raymond, Pierre Moss, Ralph Lauren, the GOAT, the greatest of all time. I feel like, especially doing Americana, and then Pelagia Colatoris. She's the creative director of Lacoste. So all these people, I always look at them and say, "Hey, what are you making?" And I want to be inspired by you always. Um, Especially if you have that creative mind where you start with color, and a lot of them do. So that's my process, and then I go into manufacturing, of course, creative content. Okay, what's the creative direction that I want to build around? And most of the time, I always have it because I start with a theme, like the color, then the theme, getting everything together. So my process is very thorough. I like to do my process by myself, especially. I like to sit um, and think about what I want the consumers to receive at that time.
I love that. It's like you're touching on color psychology,
Mhm,
and I really appreciate that intention that you're taking,
mhm,
and understanding, how people react to certain colors, what it reminds them of.
mhm,
And then like I know some people like lean towards certain colors in their wardrobe, like they personally wouldn't wear,
mhm.
black or white, but they really love reds and browns. So that's really cool that you noticed that.
Yeah, it's very interesting because I always use the rule of three in anything that I make or have. You'll see most of my designs and most of my collections have three colors. Especially in my branding. In my branding, I always use red, white, and blue. And a lot of people like, oh, it's American. Of course, I'm American, but it's my type of freedom that I want to speak to. And if my type of freedom as a person of color, I want to speak to that, especially in my branding, and also showing that I'm not always in control. I always try to give thanks to Jesus Christ in whatever I do. So make sure that all of those aspects are always in branding, and using color to display that. Even if the background, the people in my consumers don't know what it means, it's always exciting to see it for myself. And eventually people find out and like, oh, that's what that meant. Um, it's very interesting to use the color, and then people figure out what it is. So yeah, I like to do it a lot. So
Piggybacking off of what Sydney said, yeah, you
mhm,
do a lot of color theory and color psychology work, which is very, very like it's very interesting. When you say you weren't creative when you started. I'm like, I was like, this just ain't adding up. This ain't
yeah,
adding up. When you said that finance, I was like, he doing a lot behind the scenes that he don't like. He said he didn't do way back when.
when we're taught in
Mhm,
school to pick an aspect that'll make us money,
mhm,
Um,
that's what we're taught. We're
true,
taught to
true.
pick something. Hey, if your family doesn't come from money, what do you need? Money.
yeah.
So
Mhm,
I'm gonna pick a major that gives me money. That's the most important thing. Is making sure that I think outside of the box and what other people tell me. I grew up as an athlete, as somebody as a person of color, and that's either you're going to go to school and you're going to do this, or you're going to be an athlete,
Mhm.
as a black person. And I grew up thinking that, and it kind of shifted. Like I said, during COVID, I can do more. I can expand my mind more, become a better person, become somebody who, I mean, that lends way to being a creative director and a designer too. But how can I adjust to the aspects that in the situation that I'm in now and be creative? Especially a lot of us were isolated. How do you adjust to those circumstances? So that's one thing that I teach too, is making sure that you think outside the box and you think you could do more than what is around you or what other people have done around you.
So important, especially for us. So
It,
important.
for sure.
so I do have another follow up. So you already touched on this because you say your pieces do come out in collections.
Mhm.
Do you ever have a moment where a single product comes out?
Sometimes well, last fall, winter, I would say, summer going into the fall, winter, uh, I always try to do things to give back to the community. And I released a piece. It's called Scava Sustainable Creativity Becomes Art, and Arius Juan, bomber jacket. I always try to release some aspect of that brand that I have aside from Ari's Juan. And I always try to give 10% to any local school, anybody who needs it. Just because I feel like we have an obligation to give back. And I see so many brands who don't give back. I see so many brands who don't really care about what's going on. They just care about money. And if you're truly a designer who cares about the creativity in it, let's give back to the next future of creators and creators who may not know they want to be a creative or a creator. And that's the only time I release single pieces, for my brand, my collections. Maybe, eventually, maybe more, but that's the only time I really feel the need to.
That's so important. Like we like talk about it, but then also like the people that have been in the magazine before, like we've just had conversations with before, a lot of them, they hit on that same thing. Like it means the world to them when they see other people seeing them and knowing that they could do that too. Or like especially like the youth, just like seeing what is possible. So I love that you do, like you look behind you as you're going for it, you keep looking behind you and giving back. So
Right. It's so important. It's so important. Like growing up, I used to always work at summer camps. Even sometimes at college, I worked at summer camps. And just that influence that you have, some of the kids that I worked in summer camps with, it was 10 years ago. They're like adults now. They're like 18. And it's like they inbox me on Facebook or Instagram. And it's so important because it's like, hey, even though I was with you just a summer, that impact and those conversations we had, it changed your whole trajectory of your life. And that's so important because a lot of times we don't think what we're doing is very important, especially with giving back. But I always tell people it is because you never know what can change somebody's life.
You have these collections. So we've seen you put out short films. How does a collection inspire the short film produces?
Man, that's a great question. The short films, I write on my creative directory things. I also shoot them. Sometimes I do have people help me shoot, for the director or for videographer. I want to give a shout out to my homeboy Tate, Brandon Tate, Tate Films. He helped me shoot these last couple of short films that we did. And I always approach the short films from an aspect of a luxury aspect in a feel that I want to give people behind the collection. And with Eternal Autumn, of course, it was about not just the fall, winter, autumn, going into spring aspect with the colors. It was also based off of a Japanese Japanese American architect who actually helped design certain buildings, certain super important buildings in America. And I wanted to kind of have shape, but also have lines and directory all in everything that I did for the short films. So that's why you have like my first short film, you'll see a lot of shapes, you'll see a lot of like columns, and you'll see a lot of like arches. And then the second one, you'll see the same thing as well. So that's kind of what I wanted to build around those short films was that aspect of my collection. But going into building short films, I always say, how can I use color? Of course, because you'll see a lot of color in my short films in different colors. And then how can I be so intentional with the editing process to make sure that people feel, whether that's slow motion, certain shutter speed, make sure people feel what I'm actually trying to put forth. So I love my short films. They help me articulate what I'm trying to do through a lens. So it gets me very excited every time I'm working on something like that.
I love Paulie, you're very intentional about Americana and how even the littlest things it's a callback. So one, really appreciate that. And then two, I like that you see the beauty and the power in short films. I graduated with a film degree, and so I feel like a lot of people, don't realize how much you can do with a shorter film. Like you can really tell a story when you like hone in on something. And then like you said, you consider the editing and how you're shooting. Like it all comes together to create a beautiful story within under 5 minutes or so.
Right.
And like that's like you're basically a pro at that point because if you can make someone feel something in that short amount of time, you can do anything. So.
Right.
Yeah,
And I
that's
always
cool.
think of that as I work on, my next collection.
Hmm.
I haven't really talked to nobody about it, but it's called Social Renaissance. Um, and it's basically taking those typical Renaissance positions or themes that we have. You have your mathematicians, philosophers, and it's taking those people and it's putting into a Americana lens as a person of color. As people of color, we always look at things in a certain way, and we also always have to put on that mask. So I'm trying to tell people, hey, take that mask off and become the mathematician or philosopher or that Renaissance type of person that you need to be.
Hmm.
Um, and that's so important, especially now that I'm doing a creative direction for it and make sure I have those aspects in it.
Yeah, especially I feel like, now in our time, like that's more important than ever to tell, our own, like we can do this, we can do that, we can be
Right.
leaders here. So, mhm.
You said it's based on social renaissance. Like that's the idea you have. I don't know why I thought of Chromacopia by Tyler Creator.
Oh yeah,
So that-
yeah. I mean, it's so important to talk about it. I think my thing about I always want to, like I said, I always want to have my perspective as a person of color in America. That's not always the intention, but it always comes off that way because that's who I am. So a lot of people be like, "Hey, you always do it this way," or you're always trying to tell a message, but I can't help it because that's what I go through. That's who I am.
Right.
And I think Tyler Creator is telling that same story through Pharmacopoeia. This is who I am, especially what he went through as a person. Growing up, I listened to the album. Growing up, I don't have my dad. Who am I as a person? Or my mom not telling me that my father wanted to be in my life. Who am I as a person? Um, and that's so important to take that mask off and say, I'm really like this. This is who
Yeah.
I am, and I can become something other than what you perceive me to be.
As someone that uses metaphors often, I definitely agree.
Mhm.
I definitely agree. But my next question is going to be it's two and one. You kind of
Mhm.
only answer one of them.
Okay.
But what's next for your brand, and are there any exciting things that are coming
Mhm.
out soon?
So, like I said, the next collection, Social Renaissance, it's almost done. This jacket is from Social Renaissance. Uh,
Oh,
it's I use red, you know, a dark blue, a yellow to tell the story. Certain Renaissance colors, if you look it up, if you research it. So that's coming next. Hopefully, sometime soon. I don't try to put a date on anything because I feel like I never want to rush the process or never rush my creativity. Of course, I try to keep up with the fall, winter, spring, summer, but I never want to rush it to a point where I don't get across my point. And that's what's next on that aspect. I think in a couple months, you'll also see another collection that I'm doing. It's called Church of Lore. It's telling my perspective from growing up Pentecostal uh, and just sitting in those pews and observing what's going on. So those two things are next. I think I'm also giving back, of course. Me and my friend also I sponsor an event in Nashville, um, a health event in Nashville that my friend is coming up. And it's brand company apparel. I sponsor that as well. It's always in May. Um, so those are a couple things that I got coming up.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I'm ready. I'm looking ready for the Church of the Lord. As a church kid, I'm ready for that one. Look.
Yeah, it's gonna be exciting. It's gonna be exciting for sure.
We're gonna move to our next segment where basically
Okay.
all we do is ask a question. And all you have to do is think of the first word that comes to your mind. Okay, so the first one is gonna be dream celebrity to wear your brand.
Michael B. Jordan.
Favorite luxury brand,
Hermes.
online or in-person shopping.
In person.
Something you can't leave the house without.
I'll just say my keys.
Shit.
For sure. I'll just say my keys,
We're
Can't
gonna
leave
come
the house
back to
without
that.
those.
We will come back to that because there's something that I got something for you on that question.
Okay.
Capsule wardrobe or endless options.
Capsule wardrobe.
Okay, so back to question number one. Why Michael B. Jordan?
His physique. I think he fits clothes very well. I also feel like he articulates himself very well. He would be the number one person because of the way he articulates himself and the way he presents himself to the public. Um, he also likes Japanese anime. I'm a big anime lover.
Mm.
And he's a huge he emphasizes a huge strategic vision, especially when he directed like Creed 3.
Mhm.
I think that that I bond with that because that's something huge that it's the details that I love about him. And a lot of people don't look at those aspects of a person. He just watch the movie. I'm like, hey, he loves this. How does he bond it with the things that he's doing?
I'm gonna go back to question number 3. You said in-person shopping.
Mhm.
I relate to this so much because like COVID took that away from us.
Right.
Yeah.
It did. It did. But the thing about in-person shopping too is the experience. I know eventually I want to open a brick and mortar. And my first location I want it to be in Chicago because I love Chicago. I love the city. But in-person shopping is the experience. It's the experience. We need to give people more experiences. And that's what I plan to do in the future.
Yeah, especially like it really helps with like brands or even like big companies because in the way you think about it, it's like going to a museum. Like all these things are hanging around pieces of art, pieces of something that someone has put together.
Mhm.
And even though online is easy, it's quick, it's an easy way to get the product to the customer, but
Mhm.
we're missing, like you said, the experience being made.
Mhm. Like what's your brand? Right?
Mhm.
What are you trying to make people feel?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
a lot of people we only have big fashion houses who do that now.
Mhm.
But eventually those fashion houses have to die out. It's just a business cycle. So we need other people and other brands to come up and actually make that a priority.
Yeah. But my next question.
Mhm.
Me and Sydney were making these questions beforehand.
Okay.
And I told her, I said, it's gonna be 2 options to this. I was like, we're gonna get a guy answer. I told her, I said, he's gonna say his keys. That's what it's gonna be.
That's that's the only thing because women are gonna say their purse.
Mhm.
Women don't say their purse. A man, I mean, we have our wallet. Our wallet is always on us.
Mhm.
But that's one thing we may forget sometimes is the keys. We may say,
Right.
hey, oh man, I don't have my keys. Let me run back in and get them.
Exactly. And that's probably like how we think too. Cause it's
Mhm.
like if we get out of the house and we ain't got a key, how am I gonna get back in?
Exactly.
Like that's what we worried about.
Right. How
We
am I
ain't worried
function?
about Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Like we are worried about paying things when we get out, but number one, it's like I need to get back in this house if I come
Mhm.
back. I need my
True.
keys.
That's true.
But last question.
Mhm.
Castle wardrobe. Great answer because like I really enjoy those like curating
Mhm.
a look. Like you probably know this more than I do, but curating a look is so important because like you have all these certain pieces like
Right.
you know what you look good in, you know what's comfortable for you, and it's like
Right.
that's all it needs to be.
Well, the thing is, when you have endless options, it's too much. And when you have a capsule wardrobe, you know specifically what this thing was made for and what it was made to do and what it was made to pair with.
And
With an endless wardrobe, it has no meaning. It has no meaning to it. So that's why I always say capsule is because I can look and say, hey, I know exactly what I'm gonna wear, and I know exactly how the designer or the person who created this, I know exactly what their intention was behind creating it.
well, yeah, I agree. So I feel like if I had endless options, I'd end up wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt half the time, and then I'd only put on something good like unless I needed to show up somewhere.
Right. Going out to dinner, hey, I have to I gotta find something good.
Yeah,
But if you have endless options of sweats in every color, in every size, in every way, of course you're gonna wear sweats.
exactly. I'm like,
So
yeah.
Think it also like ties into your identity as a person because like
mhm,
sometimes like I can think about like someone older, like a teacher or just someone like I've known my whole life and I instantly know what they look like based on their clothes. Like I also think that's super special when you can like take time and years to really like create a capsule that
mhm,
embodies you as a person too.
right. I personally I don't like when people go out and redo their wardrobe in like a week. Certain people like throw away everything they have and they're like, hey, let's go shopping and redo my wardrobe. I'm like, no, the wardrobe is single-handedly built over years to make sure it applies to you as a person and what you do or your profession.
Yeah.
Like you don't see, I mean, scrubs are expensive, right? But you don't see a nurse buying 10 scrubs at one time. You don't see that. So they build it over time. And some other brands may come out with other scrubs and different types of scrubs and what you want to see. So Yeah, I like people who build it over time.
Yeah. I say, 'cause we always had that one family member, like uncle, father,
Mhm.
mother, like they always had like those classic pieces. I remember with my friends, like their dad had like tons of Letterman jackets. Don't know where he got. Probably stole a couple of them, but
Right.
they had a couple. Had tons of them, and like it was like whenever he stepped out, he could be going to church,
Mhm.
could be going to the dump to stuff out some trash. That
Mhm.
man's wearing a Letterman.
Nah, nah. But that's the thing, though. What's interesting about that is when you built a wardrobe over time, you've been at the beginning of a trend, the end, and then the resurgence of a trend. Just like, hey, y'all remember them big M&M jackets? Y'all remember those? Guess what? They coming back. They coming
Upgrade.
back. So if I've been building my wardrobe over the years, if I still got my M&M jacket at my mama's house, I can go back and get it. It's
Mhm.
popping now.
Yep.
Mhm.
And
You
it's
know,
probably worth more.
worth more. I can sell it. you know, and that's the thing. Like when you build something over the years, it's actually valuable. And is value in what you wore. I mean, that's why vintage clothes are so they're so in demand right now.
Yeah, and like I say, one brand that does that consistently is probably Jordan. Even though
Mm-hmm.
Jordan's been classic the whole time, Jordan's always coming back with a color that was like only for like a limited time when we were younger,
Mm-hmm.
and they come back and they revive it, or they come out with something new on a classic shoe.
Right. And Jordan is so important because I believe Jordan started that, to be honest with you, especially in the shoe space. It's like, hey, I know that we're gonna sell out, but let's create a certain exclusive feel to these shoes that we're making. And I'm glad they thought about it early because now that the business model is crazy, they make so much money. You know, never go wrong with Jordans. Never go wrong. I mean, Team Jordans, yes, but the regular ones, you can never go wrong.
No, it's insane to think about it when I think about it more often
Right.
because they've made shoes made by an athlete that were terrible at athletic events.
Yeah.
Is interesting to me.
Yeah.
Because like there are only a few Jordans you can actually wear like if you're playing basketball. You're not wearing
No.
all of them. You're
Now
not wearing all of them.
your feet gonna hurt. I played basketball in high school. Your feet are gonna hurt if you wear them.
Like
So
either you're slipping everywhere or your ankle hurts really bad.
right.
It's been a great conversation with Jujuan Lewis. Go check out his brand Arius Juan. Great stuff, great product. Again, sustainable and Black owned. So yeah, check him out and listen to our next episode. And that was a great conversation with Jujuan Lewis. Amazing, amazing, amazing work. Like literally, if you haven't checked out his stuff by the end of this podcast, like please check it out because when we talk about brands and doing everything from front to back, that's it right there.
Yeah.
Literally, it's one person, one man army.
And like just all the detail, the research, the intention that goes into it blows my mind. Like before we interviewed him, like y'all, like we of course do our research and we look around and we see what the person does or we listen to them, And so like just going on like seeing his collections alone, impressive. But then now speaking with him and understanding that he does this on his own, but then there's also so much intention that goes behind every piece and like the colors, like the actual items within the collections, the themes that he's exploring. It's it's crazy. Like, wow, I'm literally speechless.
Like, and on top of that, a family man too, because like he has priorities out and responsibilities outside of this. I'm pretty sure probably has other things going on, but yeah, like doing all that, like
Hey y'all, I'm gonna be very mad if he is not up there in New York Fashion Week, Paris Fashion Week, all the fashion weeks, and all over our timeline feeds. We are so serious when we say go to his website. Don't just look, purchase and buy, support him, follow. Like, this is why we do what we do to platform people just like this.
all it takes is one repost. That's all it takes. One repost, one comment. That's all it takes. That's all it takes. Just do your part. If you ain't got the money to spend, take the time. Literally, take the time.
Send it to someone who can spend.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah, exactly. Cause you never know. Like literally, you never know. You never know what NBA player could be lurking in your timeline right now. You never know what public figure could be in your space.
We got to get this to Michael B. Jordan. Okay.
Yeah. His stylist knows where we're at now. Come on now. Like I have no notes.
Me either. And it's also really inspiring too, just to hear, you know, how much goes into what he does. Like it reminds me of us, like how much goes into what we do. And so I always find it refreshing when we talk to people who have that same drive and who have a bigger vision, and people who really take time to curate, you know, their arts, their products. It's just really fulfilling, like a fulfilling conversation to have.
Yeah. Curation is like, I'll say curation is something that everyone has, but across different mediums. Because like we like basically, for example, like when women have a child, this is a bad place to start.
Watch your words.
When women have children, like they're picking out garments and things they want this child to wear, and like they're innocent in the essential thoughts of it. They're curating how they want this baby to dress, or at a certain point in its life, like how they want to feel cozy, want them to be warm, want to cover them when there's a cold breeze. Like they're curating everything about this child, even though they're helping it grow. They're curating everything, and then that goes back to what women do in the household. They're curating how the house looks. They're curating the theme of the house, how it feels. Are they not?
Watch them be words.
What's wrong with what should I be saying?
I'm just saying that it's not just women who do it, like the men do it too.
I am saying that, but I'm building up something better.
Okay.
But women do it across different platforms, and men do it too. Since I thought about men, I'm joking, but men do it too. Men
I'm gonna cut this out if you don't stop. I'm so serious.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna start over from where I started.
No, don't
I'm
even
sorry.
start over. Is there anything else you'd like to touch on topic-wise?
But no, men and women do it across different areas, because men don't think about the hard details. Like again, like we talked about, when men step outside the house, they're like, "Oh, I need my keys." Like, even though to some people it may not seem like curation, like you're creating how your day's gonna go. If I step outside and I got no keys, I'm not getting back in this house. That's what's going through my mind. Because obviously, I can't drive to where I need to be. I can't unlock my mailbox. Like my keys really define whether I'm going to live inside or outside today. So even though there are different forms of curation is a part of everything. So this has been a great conversation with Jujuan Lewis. Again, check out his brand at Arius Juan, SARIUSJUAN.com. Check him out. Check out his products. Check out his story. He puts out short films for every collection he has. Please do check those out. And again, support Moss Talks. Support Moss Magazine on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube,
LinkedIn.
Subscribe to our newsletter, which will be going out soon.
And go to our website.
Yeah, go to our website. We put out issues every 3 months. And physically. Go ahead.
And we feature amazing creatives on the website too. Bonus.
We've featured probably in the hundreds by now.
Yeah.
Probably past that, or like probably creeping up on 150 or 170.
Oh, absolutely.
That we've talked to or featured in the magazine or in any form. So please, these are people that we're working hard to put their work out, to make sure that they're properly seen by other media, and make sure they're connecting with the audience, make sure they're connecting with possible clientele, or even just people who are in the same field that want to offer it in piece of advice. Literally, just check them out. If you don't have the money, you had the time. So please, just check them out. That's been all from Moss Talks. We have more conversations and more culture. Thank you and have a good day.